Oops. You guys love the intro music. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Status Coup News. It's the Wednesday edition. My name is Kim Brown, the host of Burn It Down with Kim Brown on YouTube. Very happy to be joining you all here today. What's going on, Status Coup community? Love to see y'all in here. Please come in, give the video a thumbs up, a like if you're not already subscribed to Status Coup. Take a moment to do so and even take it a step further. You have to materially support these leftist independent media channels, everybody, because the mainstream media is out here running propaganda, capitalisticanda, everything that you can think of. And there are so few outlets that bring you the kind of news and perspective that Status Coup does. So, if you're able to join as a member, we encourage you to do so. You can get some special access to exclusive content for our members. You can subscribe to our Substack and just support the channel all around. It's statuscoup.com. Colin, I'm sorry, Colin, I always throw you on the spot here just to make sure, but I want to make sure I get the information correct. It's statuscoup.com where people can go and contribute directly to the channel. That's correct?
Statuscoup.com /join will take you to the hub site or statuscoup.com /donate. And once you're in that site, yeah, you can sort of navigate around and you can even join it if you want to just for free. It doesn't give you too much access, but at least you can sort of get updates and stuff like that as well.
Thank you, Colin. That's Colin, everybody. He's the man behind the curtain, pushing all the buttons that keep us streaming on the platform. So welcome everybody. Shout out to all the folks that are checking in the chat. We certainly appreciate your support and you guys joining us today. So we've got some topics on the schedule. Later on in the show, if you thought that it was just President Joe Biden who was the gaffe machine, no, you were wrong. The gaffing apparently runs in the family, and First Lady Jill Biden is coming under a bit of some criticism. This is a cultural story we're going to talk about. But of course, the whole country is still discussing the final minutes of the NCAA women's basketball final between Iowa and the eventual champions, Louisiana State University, the Lady Tigers. And the First Lady proposed something very unusual. And the woman who is at the center of a lot of this conversation, Angel Reese, had some very pointed comments for the Bidens. And I must say, I am here for rebellious black women, period, who do not want to go along with the status quo and with no diss the status quo, but they do not want to go along and acquiesce to the status quo and instead are blazing their own path and doing it their way. And shout out to Gen Z. So we're going to get into that a little later on the show. But as promised in the title, you guys, we are in a bit of an election season here. In the off-year elections, there are still some very consequential races, and one of those races was decided last night in the great city of Chicago, where progressive and former public school teacher Brandon Johnson was victorious over Joe Biden Democrat Paul Vallas. And me calling Paul Vallas a Joe Biden Democrat is not a compliment, as I'm sure you guys can deduce. Paul Vallas had so much outside money pouring into his campaign. He was the darling of the Chicago business community and enthusiastically endorsed by the Chicago Fraternal Order of Police. But now that we have Brandon Johnson as the mayor-elect of Chicago, is he actually going to rule differently? Is he going to govern differently than his predecessor, Lori Lightfoot, also a Democrat? It's the neoliberal politics that usually get people elected into office. They sometimes run very left, very progressive, but as they get further on in that race, the shift towards the center and towards moderation continues. And we, as people who understand that this country, this entire system needs to be overthrown or overhauled, depending on your perspective, we need better options. But perhaps Mr. Johnson is going to bring some changes to the way that Chicago is governed, particularly to its Black and Brown communities. But we end up falling into this pitfall this hamster wheel of voting the lesser of two evils, and we're trying to ascertain whether or not Brandon Johnson is going to be that. We will see eventually. I want us to play a clip if we could. Colin, it's going to be the older clip of Erica. Jordan was in Chicago a few years back. I believe this is during the Lightfoot administration, and he was speaking with Chicago organizers about how harmful. I mean, as much as we abhor and detest conservatives, when we examine the policies of Democrats at the federal level, at the state level, at the city and local level, a lot of times some of those policies can be as harmful as those proposed by conservatives or those enacted by conservatives. Check out this clip. Jordan speaking with organizer Erica Nanton.
And that's what I wanted to touch on. I think one of the things that we can connect to this is what's happening with our millennial like cohorts and young folk, right? Is that in campaigns right now, the MO is money, right? But do we actually look into what that money is used for? What is the money actually used for? The money is used to influence the public opinion. And there's a couple ways it's used. Number one, multiple ads, so you see that person's name. I mean, no knock on prison, but I mean, I was on Spotify, okay, trying to enjoy my song, and I was like, oh my God, where did this ad come from? Like, he's on Spotify, all Snapchat, my God. So it's like, that's what that money goes for. But the other thing it goes for is consulting. It goes for consulting. And I'm just want to make this very clear. In our communities where jobs are lacking, opportunity is lacking, how many of us don't think much deeper than applauding our family member who gets a job on a Clinton campaign or who gets a job doing that stuff, and we ready to clap because half of us did nothing. But in the midst of our clapping, because we don't have a lot of opportunities, we are clapping for our own destruction. We are clapping for that talented family member in front of us to use those neutral talents and gifts that could be used for good or bad or whatever. We are applauding the use of those talents and gifts that our community has grown through struggle to be used for things that could detrimentally take us in the wrong direction because of our lack. Because we want to applaud each other. We want to see each other make it. We want to see the few of us that somehow get our head above water. So in the midst of that, there's such a conundrum because now millennials are at that age where we are those consultant. Like some of us are those consultant age now. We are those people. And so they know, number one, millennials is broke out here, okay? And like they offering stuff, you know what I'm saying? And my caution to the millennial generation is do not let them make you their millennial firewall. Do not let them take your arts and talents and gifts and things that came out of this struggle and become the thing that protects them from their BS. That should be the very thing that challenges it. And it may take some sacrifice at first. And that's the other thing. If your 5-year plan is going to make you most successful in 5 years than your community, that's the wrong 5-year plan. Period. And so I think it's time for us to start looking deeper and be real about the fact that it's not going to be easy. It's going to take some sacrifices in the front end, but in the end, it will benefit all of our communities. And that's what I think we got to think about.
Wise words there, potentially prophetic words. We're joined with Erica Nanton today, here from Chicago. She is a community organizer and she does work with the Poor People's Campaign. Erica, we certainly appreciate you making some time to join us today on Status Coup. Welcome again.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor to be back on the show. I was loving listening to you. I'm used to talking with Jordan, but this is refreshing to see another sister on here. Talking that revolutionary stuff. I love it.
Let's get it, sis, and let's get right into it. So I can understand the amount of relief I would imagine that Chicagoans are experiencing today after discovering that FOP-backed candidate Paul Vallis, in fact, was defeated by Brandon Johnson. And this was a very, very close race. I believe the last numbers I saw, the difference was only about 3 points between the candidates once most of the vote tallies were compilated. So this very easily could have gone the other way. Are organizers celebrating today? Or is it a tempered celebration? Is it relief? Is it excitement? Is it eye rolling? Are people like, again? We're glad we didn't get Paul Vallis, but we got yet another Democrat. And what are they going to do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm gonna tell you Straight up. Okay, so let me tell y'all something about what just happened last night in Chicago, right? This is a little different, right? The Chicago organizing community is actually really tight knit. We have all crossed paths at some point, either in the street, either getting handcuffed at the same time, either encountering I always say Chicago is one of the smallest, biggest cities ever. It's like a small town, but a big city. Like we all know each other. And so what y'all saw tonight in Chicago was like a family reunion across the organizing world, people that we maybe haven't seen in a couple of years, or people who we work with more frequently, but like they're a part of our organizing memory. They're a part of our revolutionary memory in Chicago. Like we all could sit there for hours talking about, do you remember that time? Do you like, that's what was in that room last night. And it was just to see the vastness of us, how vast we are, but then also the people we've brought into the movement through door knocking, through doing what we know how to do, connecting in the hoods. I was out there at the corner stores, baby. I was at the liquor store. I was not playing, okay? So just to see that kind of coming together. So there was celebration in that place because this was so long fought from the times when we was out there in the streets to keep our black schools open, when they was trying to do all those school shutdowns with Rahm Emanuel, to the times when we was protesting for Laquan McDonald that was murdered by Chicago police and we were getting brutalized for the police to do it. We were fighting for the No Cop Academy that they were trying to build on top of a shuttered school. All these fights, and they just kept on like hitting at us, but we kept on fighting forward. So the day y'all saw last night is a long time coming in the city of Chicago. So there's absolutely a level of celebration with us because we know what it took to get here. And Brandon was one of those people who was on the front lines with us. And that I think is why it's significant that he's the one that won. I remember Brandon from being a college student, and he used to be a marshal in an orange vest. He used to be the one to keep us from when we're being all rambunctious from getting hit by a car. He wasn't on the microphone. He wasn't on the stage. He was just keeping us safe, doing his part in the revolution. And now look. So it's like, that's the type of people that you would want. You get what I'm saying? To come out of the movement. So yeah, we are absolutely, we was percolating. We was doing the cha-cha slide. It was amazing.
Oh man, was the elders in their hand dancing? These are the questions.
My
Were they
gosh, the
Chicago
elders was
stepping?
getting it. It was like a multi-generational, multiracial. It was just beautiful. It's everything we've ever thought Chicago was possible to be, with being one of the most segregated cities in the country. Seeing all those different demographics come together and we dancing together. We doing, the wobble together. We over there just like, dancing to Suavemente together. We was just, when I say, it was just like amazing.
So I'm glad that you gave us some of that background context for Brandon because, outside of Chicago, well, first of all politics are local, right? And outside of Chicago, I don't think that Brandon is quite a nationally known figure, though obviously with
He's
this
gonna be now.
he will be now with this impressive victory and something that he was able to squeak through. But as you said, it was a result of hard fought organizing. So and you sound as though you have been well acquainted with Brandon for a long time. What are some of the qualities and the attributes, and most importantly, some of the policies that Brandon is bringing to this office as the mayor-elect?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, the one thing that I think is really strong about Brandon, because he eventually became a county commissioner. So a lot of us younger folks worked on his campaign to get elected to commissioner, and he's been serving as a commissioner for a few terms now, before he's now run for mayor. But the one thing that is really consistent with Brandon is that he understands the foundation of our fights. And the problem is, unfortunately, we have folks like, I don't even want to say his name, but it's just all over social media, Lord. A former surrogate for Bernie Sanders, who shall remain nameless, because I'm so sick of it. But who shall remain nameless, but he decided to jump on Paul Vallis's side. And I'm like, boy.
Now I want to know.
Like,
I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Erica. Spell it. Put it in sign language. Tell me.
Let me tell you something, baby. Let me tell you something messy. It's messy and
Wow.
it's just messed up. Jumped on Paul Vallis's side with the FOP. the FOP
Yeah.
who murdered Laquan McDonald, and you was out there with us, and then you all of the wealthiest corporations, corporate donors you could think of, the most nefarious. One of them's Ken Griffin. He was the wealthiest man in Illinois. He makes money off of gun manufacturing. How y'all trying to solve violence and your biggest donor makes money of putting guns on the street? Go sit down. So this person who, like I said, shall remain nameless, want to jump on that side. And you know the movement, what happened? Man, the memes, baby, the memes. Okay.
Right.
But like it was so disheartening. But I bring that up to say Brandon demonstrates a rootedness in the values we fight for, right? That is about truly fighting to the finish line. It's not about, oh, I'm gonna jump ship because somebody offered me a job or a position or whatever, and now all of a sudden all the values I claimed to hold don't even mean smoke no more, because that takes sacrifice. I think it was even in the clip I said before, and you're right, maybe it was prophetic, that there would be this cohort of people that would start looking out for their consultant jobs and they money instead of looking at the mission of the movement. And so that's one thing that I think, and the policies that Brandon stand on is the things we've been fighting for. Police accountability, for us to be able to have a voice over our communities, for the rich being taxed, baby. Do you understand? They shivering right now. They is absolutely shivering. They spent, someone was writing $700,000 checks to Paul Vallis at a time. Yo, they scared. And if the rich is scared, we doing something right.
Right.
We doing something right if the wealthy is that scared. And so it's just, this is authentic in the sense that it's so connected to not just Brandon's fight, but all of the people that help make this possible. And we not exactly the type of people to mess with. We love Brandon. He's awesome. He's one of us. But Jay, I almost said the person's name. This other individual is an example of what happened when you try us. Okay. So we also are no one to play with. So we are just the type of guild that is risen up in Chicago who actually know how to hold politicians accountable, even if they once called themselves friend, because we understand that this is about our people and our lives and our deaths. And so we the wrong ones, boo-boo, as they say. We the wrong ones, okay? And I think it's been demonstrated in the fact that we with you when you're right, and we gonna fight to the death, get you all the way to the mirror seat. So respect us, because you already see from an example, Exhibit A over there, what happens if you gonna betray us. So I think there's a level of respect mutually and a lot of connection that can help us make it to a lot of change in the city.
Erica, I have a couple clips that I want to play, because I mean, we understand that people that come out of the movement who do seek elected office, who I don't know if aspire to be politicians is the right phrase to use here, but those who believe that you can change the system by working within the system. You can help to redistribute power if you yourself accumulate some power. And these clips have been making the rounds nationally. Again, everybody doesn't know Brandon yet, but people may be familiar with what some are calling a flip-flop on his position on defunding the police. And you already know where I'm going with this. So I want everybody to see these clips. Colin, just go ahead and run them joints back to back. The first one we're going to see is Brandon giving an interview via Zoom, and this is obviously like a couple of years old, where he expressed a support for the policy of defunding the police. And the second clip we're going to see is one from the most recent mayoral debate, where he was asked directly and didn't exactly answer directly, but I'll let everybody else be the judge. Let's take a look at these clips. Thanks, Colin.
The president of the United States, the former president of the United States, President Barack Obama, took it one step further as well, and basically said that the effort of the defund police movement lost an audience because of that that slogan, I guess is what he's calling it, which I don't look at it as a slogan. It's an actual real political goal. We know the mayor of Chicago here rebuked this call to redirect money to defund this failed, system of incarceration and policing. So whether it's the president of the United States, calling it a catchy hashtag or phrase, Lori Lightfoot, which I think is actually quite dismissive of the young people who are literally putting their lives on the line for a cause that I think, quite frankly, is not just admirable, but is necessary.
Mr. Johnson, this question is for you. On multiple occasions, you've spoken on the topic of defunding police. In 2020, you said, quote, defunding this failed system of incarceration and policing was not just admirable, but necessary, end quote. During a town hall called Police Free Future, you commended defund organizers for, quote, an agenda that actually can transform people's lives, and said, quote, removing ourselves away from state-sponsored policing. That is commendable. As far as redirecting funds, if we look at your record, you introduced a resolution and passed it with the support of others to redirect money from the sheriff's office to other areas. So first, this is a multi-part question. The first is just a yes or no. Do you acknowledge making those recorded and documented statements, yes or no?
I'm not going to defund the police.
If you could answer the question, though.
Yeah.
Do you acknowledge making the statements that I just read by quote, yes or no?
What I've acknowledged is the fact that there are people who are incredibly frustrated.
Mr. Johnson, if I could get you back to the question,
of course.
It's solely yes or no. Do you acknowledge making those statements?
Look, you've
Yes or no?
already quoted. What I'm saying is, though,
So you
is that it
acknowledge making
provides
those
some
statements?
Of course, I'm acknowledging it, but I want to make sure that we have context.
I want to give you the opportunity to
to
answer
that.
the question, but I just want to move on to the next part of it. So acknowledge.
So yeah, that those clips obviously are disturbing, to be honest with you, Erica, because it sounds like a contradiction. It sounds like somebody who, even if they came out of the movement, are familiar with all the phraseology and the buzzwords associated that really perk up the ears, particularly of young voters who do want to see change. And then once that viable candidate becomes very viable, their positions begin to moderate, move to the center. And now it's, I'm not going to defund the police. As someone who knows him and who's familiar with this campaign, I know you're not a spokesperson for the campaign, but what does Brandon Johnson intend to do regarding Chicago police funding? And do you look at this, I'm gonna call it a flip-flop. Do you look at it, do you personally look at it as a flip-flop? And what is the take from other community organizers who obviously have seen those clips put together in some form or fashion?
Yeah, I think the local community organizers here in Chicago, like I said, we're like a family. We've been out here together. I think we gave Brandon a lot more grace than maybe like other organizers nationally and stuff wouldn't, only because we understood, like, you ever feel like you being put in a position that you like, oh my God, I can't believe we made it this far. Like, like, oh crap, we're actually doing this, y'all. Like, and there was like such a sentiment of that for like the longest, like, hold on a minute, we might actually pull this off. To where it's like, we had a little bit more grace for Brandon, because it's like now we get to watch what it would be like for our stuff to be put on the big stage. Mm-hmm. And like being put on your toes, right? So it's almost like when you're trailblazing certain things in the movement, you're like the guinea pig. You know what I'm saying? PETA people, please don't come for me. I don't mean to hurt guinea pigs now. But don't come for me. It's just a slogan. Keep saying. But yeah, but you're basically the guinea pig, right? For the movement, because like this is kind of unprecedented, right? And so I think what we watched was him trying to navigate, and this is another thing, this is a mistake organizers make. Sometimes we push policy faster than the political education we've been willing to do of the masses. So they don't be ready, baby. They don't be ready. And we want to push what we know from our little group meetings when we have the cheese trays and the little the LaCroix. And we be meeting and we be talking revolutionary readings. We be having like reading and stuff. Like, we coming from that perspective, but we ended up on we on the big stage now. We probably we always shocked we got there. But it's like now we got to think about the fact that the masses, we need to do the work so that people don't feel a sense of fear and trembling about the idea of mass incarceration, or the police being systemically protective, especially in Black and brown communities, when the evidence shows so different, and that there's so many more root causes. And Brandon has truly been somebody to fight for those root causes. Now that's something that we had done enough political education for the people to get it, was about how crime in Chicago is not just about policing. That crime in Chicago is a combination of complex issues going on in our communities, from mental health to poverty to food insecurity to lack of jobs, like youth not having after school activities and other programs. So we've done a lot better with that political education in Chicago. So when Brandon ran on that, it wasn't like trying to force an idea that the people hadn't been educated to yet, because they only can go by what a phrase sounds like. They have like no deeper political education, right? So in that sense, Brandon was the guinea pig this time around, right? And as we begin to look at these things, I think we need to learn to have a mind of learning, like scientists sometimes in this, as our movement makes these kind of moves. And we need to start to learn how to be ready the next time, right? They come at us, and do the work now on the ground to start to educate the people, so the next time they hear defund the police, it don't resonate the same. It resonates with more political education than before. And that is our job as organizers and political educators, that we need to be doing. As Ella Baker called it, it's the root work. We got to be willing to till the ground, y'all, out here, and get it ready.
Ooh, Erica, come back, baby. There you go. Okay. We need your audio back. We need your audio back. I can't hear you. There we go.
Is it back now?
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
Okay.
Continue.
Yeah, I was just saying. Yeah. So like what Ella Baker calls the root work, right? So you have to till the ground first. You can't just drop seeds everywhere, because those seeds might not go down as deep as they need to. Something might fly away in the wind, whatever. Like that's the equivalent of just going around putting defund stickers on lampposts, right? The seed may not sink in and germinate, because there's so much we have to unlearn in this white supremacist capitalist system that since birth, that you can't just always just dump the phrase that we took the time to do the work in ourselves to understand, and just assume that the masses are going to catch it, because a lot of times they don't, and then it becomes an attack point for the other side, who is going to take advantage of the lack of political education of the masses. And we want to make sure we don't keep giving them that advantage by having mass political education being a part of anything we do electorally. And to answer your other question real quick about is it work from the inside? See, I don't really think it's even about working from the inside, because what people need to understand about government, right? Yes, it's white supremacist, it's imperialist, and it's capitalist. But the one thing about it is, the reason is that way is because it works perfectly for imperialists, capitalists, and racists and white supremacists, right? It works like a well-oiled machine. The government itself, like an apparatus that provides for its citizen, is a neutral. It's like a knife, a butter knife, or a knife. Like it depends what you do with it. You can cut a steak with it, or you can stab somebody. Like the knife itself is the neutral. The government itself could work for the everyday people like a well-oiled machine, and provide things for us the same way it does the wealthy every single day. So we kind of got to get out this mindset that it itself is broken, rather than the people who are utilizing it for their benefit. And what y'all saw in Chicago is that we went after power, y'all. And that's the thing. Power it matters that we have power as the people. The people need the power, and it's time to snatch that thing, y'all.
I appreciate you using the words well-oiled machine, because the city of Chicago is probably the most infamous political machine in the country. And obviously there are a lot of powerful entities and people who are determined to thwart whatever sort of progressive or even radical agenda that the mayor-elect might be pursuing. How do you protect him from co-optation? And I almost am reluctant to use the word protect, because he is a grown-ass man. But I mean, but you understand what I'm saying? Because as we look around the country, Brandon Johnson being elected mayor of Chicago, he's not the first Black mayor to be elected Chicago. He's not the first Black man to be elected mayor of Chicago. We have a lot of representation politically, especially in cities that have significant Black populations. And we see a lot of these elected Black Democratic mayors are truly bad actors in the community. Eric Adams in New York. I'm going to throw Brandon Scott from Baltimore in there. Muriel Bowser from Washington, D.C. I mean, we don't have a good precedent of Black elected officials, particularly Democrats, who come in and do anything really transformative to change the material conditions of those who are suffering the most in their communities. In fact, they usually saddle up next to the establishment and start finger wagging poor Black and brown folks and telling them that we have to fund the police to the hilt because y'all don't know how to act, and all this respectability comes pouring out. And we even see this at the national level with the squad, who has turned out to be a tremendous disappointment in their refusal to work and move as a unit, to vote as a block, to advance or at least thwart some of the bad policies put forth by both congressional Republicans and Democrats. So what do you do to protect him from co-optation so he is not the next, I'm gonna say Van Jones, even though Van is not elected, but Van comes out of the organizing Black liberation movement and then has been, gradually, or even Obama's an excellent example of that, so-called community organizer out of Chicago. And then once he got elected, stood for some very bad things. So what do you do to protect Brandon Johnson, and more importantly, to hold him accountable to the community of which he comes out of?
Yeah, that's an awesome question. So I think that what is really significant is that the people that made this victory, that allowed this victory to happen for Brandon, we are the people that take it to the streets. That's who we are. We are the warriors in this city. And we are great to have on your side. Well, we are a problem to not. And no one knows that better than somebody like Brandon, who's been out there with us, right? But I think the way that we do this right now, like I said, this is probably one of the biggest social experiments I've been involved in my life, y'all. So please forgive us if we don't have all the answers. But
Okay.
y'all are just y'all are like watching something happen that no one really thought could happen in the city of Chicago. We now have the power, and we took it. We went to the streets and took that thing. And I'm so proud of us. But yeah, I think it's going to have a lot to do with who's around him. There's a lot of revolutionary elders that I see in his camp that makes me feel a little more solid, because they are people who are mentors to me, got me to the point that I'm talking to y'all right now, right? Who helped me to understand how to keep my integrity, still fight the system, still be strategic, still honor the people that got you there. I mean, they like real revolutionary elders, and that seems to be his cohort. And I really judge people by who they hang around, especially when they start gaining power. So the fact that I see him taking in that wisdom, and I even see the implementation of that wisdom many times in the way that the campaign was run, I know he at least listens, because, man, we pulled this thing off. Listen, we really pulled this thing off with real organizing, like real deal organizing, in the hedges and the highways, not on some computer necessarily. I mean, we did phone calls and texts, but I'm talking about boots on the ground. I'm talking about going to the hedges and the highways type stuff. That's what we did. And it got us a victory. So I think that is going to be something that also youth voter participation increased significantly, which is so powerful. And that's such a powerful thing too about accountability, because the younger generation ain't playing that, and now we're voting too, and we're gonna vote even more. And so yeah, I think we're in a good place. We need the support of movements across the country. We need y'all to start seeing that this is possible. Like Dr. King even said, if you can do it in the city of Chicago, you can do it anywhere, because we have one of the most hardest to break machine type apparatuses in the city ever. But the people, the working class, the nurses, the teachers, the janitors, the daycare workers, the crossing guards, the people in the hood, we all came together, yo. The working class, and we broke a Chicago machine stronghold that has been around forever. So we just want to let people know that it's possible. I know you might have some more questions. I actually gotta run. I gotta go.
Oh, listen, I appreciate you making any time for us because your perspective is so valuable, and you saw this thing from the inside out. And now, after election, the election day, that Brandon Johnson is the mayor-elect of Chicago. So and I'm sure it's been a long night for you, also, Erica. So I mean, I can understand. So listen, I appreciate you making some time for us today. We've been joined with community organizer from Chicago, Erica Nanton. Erica, thank you so much for all that you do for your community. I love Chicago. Let me just put that in there, by the way. I love one of my favorite cities in the world. If I could live there May, June, and July, I would.
Well, guess what? Chicago, with the work on the ground and what we fought for this long, we getting ready for Chicago to get a lot better. And we are dedicated. We're determined. It's not just about the mayor we just got. He has the power of the pen. We seize the power of the pen. So we're going to combine that with the power in the streets. And I want y'all to see this major social experiment. Bernie came out here. We filled an arena. So last night in Chicago, the Bernie movement won an election, y'all. The Bernie movement won an election in the city of Chicago.
Impressive.
Very,
very impressive victory, especially considering the forces that sided with Paul Vallis, the money, the business, the police, and Brandon Johnson was victorious. So congratulations, Erica, on a victory, hard fought and well deserved. We appreciate you making some time today.
Thank you so much, you guys. It was so good to be with you.
You as well, sis. Be safe. Be safe. Keep up the good work. All right, y'all. That was Erica Nanton, Chicago organizer, talking to us about the I wouldn't say unprecedented, but perhaps improbable victory of progressive Brandon Johnson in defeating. Is he a Democrat? Paul Vallis? I guess technically he is, but that was big Republican energy. I said, is that Joe Biden running against Brandon Johnson? No, but congratulations to the Johnson campaign and to the city of Chicago and those that came out and helped to secure this victory. Let me take a quick break, everybody. Thank you all so much for being here with us on this wonderful day on Status Coup. In case you have not already, please take a moment and give the video a like, a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel, become a member, go to statuscoup.com/join. We have different tiers available of content that you can access depending on, your level of support. So check that out, statuscoup.com/join. You can also check out the Status Coup Substack as well. Now the next story that I'm going to do, and we're gonna take ourselves out on this one, is a cultural story. There's some politics involved because politics is truly a part of every facet of life. But when we talk about culture and sports culture, sports can be a microcosm for a society. I don't know how much I agree with that, because some would say that, for example, professional sports or even collegiate sports are a true meritocracy. I would say no. I would say they aren't, because the social and political factors that determine which athletes actually get those opportunities are all based in all of the systems of oppression. People still have to fight through those systems of oppression to be able to display their talents fully in order to take advantage of perhaps being put in a position to be rewarded for being the best performer. It doesn't always work that way. But the level of cultural conversation that has been spurred by this year's NCAA women's basketball finals between Iowa and Louisiana State University has really revealed a lot of things to the fore about the ways Americans perceive competition in women, and the ways that perception can be very clouded and or altered through the lens of race. So I'm gonna just briefly bring everybody up to speed, even though I know y'all know what I'm talking about. So phenomenal guard for the Iowa. What the fuck is Iowa? Are they the Buckeyes? I don't care. Iowa. Her name is Caitlin Clark. White gal, lights out. She can pull up from anywhere on the court. Who was saying that? I think it was Stephen A. said that she was like Steph Curry. She could pull up from the parking lot and drain shots. She can handle the ball. She distributes the ball very well. Because of her skill and her prowess on the basketball court, Iowa was widely favored to become the women's basketball champions. But whoa, 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 but whoa, whoa, whoa. Here come these girls from Louisiana State, the LSU Lady Tigers, who were ranked 3 in their region. Nobody or very few people actually had picked LSU to win, but it turns out that they actually won very convincingly over Iowa. And Angel Reese, a player for the Lady Tigers, did this. He did this. The John Cena, you can't see me, right? And which has gotten a lot of criticism, particularly from white dude bros like Keith Olbermann and the douchebag who is the president of Barstool Sports. Everybody, they called her a classless piece of shit. Keith Olbermann called her a fucking idiot. I'm talking about Angel Reese, that is. But they didn't have these same criticisms for Caitlin Clark when she also did gestures that could be considered taunting. I don't consider them taunting. I consider it competitive. People are not used to seeing women compete at this level and shit talk at this level and do things at this level to the extent that men do. So I can understand it makes some people uncomfortable. But America told on itself this week with all the projection onto Angel Reese as to why her gestures were disrespectful and classless, but Caitlin's were perceived as tough and passionate and just demonstrated her abilities as a competitor. So the Bidens waded into this a little bit, right? So actually, Colin, go ahead and pull up the Jill Biden clip. Now, don't ask me where Jill Biden was. I don't care. I don't care where Jill Biden was. Jill Biden was somewhere talking about something, and she let this slip out of her lips. So let's take a listen.
So congratulations to both teams. So I know we'll have the champions come to the White House. We always do. So, you know, we'll have LSU come. But you know what? I'm going to tell Joe, I think Iowa should come too, because they played such a good game. So, right? So winners and losers, that's sportsmanship. That's good sportsmanship.
That may be sportsmanship, but that's not America. That's not America. America don't give a fuck about number 2. America only care about number 1. And it's real telling, again, in this moment, in this flashpoint of cultural conversation and discussions about the way Black women and white women are perceived differently in their actions when they are confident and highly competitive. Since when do we invite the number 2 team to come along with the number 1 team? We don't do that. But to me, this was an attempt by Jill Biden to console what she perceived maybe as the fragility of another white woman, being Caitlin Clark. Because, you know, everybody thought Caitlin and Iowa were going to win. And since they lost, man, maybe we should make them feel better by also inviting them to the White House for sportsmanship. If the roles had been reversed, gang, do you all think if Iowa were the national champs, won the national title, do you think LSU would be invited for sportsmanship to the White House? So those little hood Black girls didn't feel bad about themselves? No, Joe Biden would not give a single shit about the LSU Lady Tigers. Why? For obvious reasons. But Angel Reese, did I discover this today? Angel Reese is from Baltimore. How did I not know that? Unbelievable. So it makes sense why she goes the way she goes, because, you know, Baltimore is Baltimore, and we love Baltimore. Y'all need to put some respect on Baltimore's name on here. However, I want you to take a listen to a couple of clips. Angel Reese, she sat down in an interview since Jill Biden let that slip out of her lips that everybody gets a trophy. We're going to celebrate number 1 and number 2. Angel Reese sat down with Brandon Marshall and the host Ashley Nicole of the YouTube channel I Am Athlete. And I want you guys to check out what Angel had to say about the situation. Let's check out the first clip.
And now you have the First Lady saying she's going to invite the runner-up to the White House. How does that feel, knowing that that's never been done, and in this situation now there's an exception possibly being made?
I just know if the roles were reversed, it wouldn't be the same. If we were to lose, we would not be getting invited to the White House. And I remember she made a comment about both teams should be invited because it was sportsmanship. And I'm like, are you saying that because of what I did? And that stuff like that, it bothers me, because you are a woman at the end of the day. White, Black, it doesn't matter, you're a woman, you're supposed to be standing behind us before anything. So it's hard to see things like that and not to comment back on it. But at the same time, like, I have the platform right now where I can speak out, and a lot of people have had my back through it. So I'm proud to be in a situation like this, and nobody's giving her grace right now. Trust me, nobody's giving her grace, and that's why she's trying to backtrack on what she said. So.
And Angel is not mistaken about that. The internet went a little bit wild with confusion and wonderment as to why the first lady would take this unprecedented step as to invite the number one and, well, pardon me, the champs and the non-champs to the White House for some sort of ceremony. I mean, regardless of whatever we think about the White House tradition of the Super Bowl champions, the World Series champs, the NCAA, whoever wins the football, it's a spectacle. It's to promote nationalism in a way, the prowess of American athletes. But for Jill Biden to take this weird angle and even suggest that, to me, is very transparent, right? It's because of the racial dynamics of what played out between Iowa and LSU, more specifically between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. Angel also had some additional comments because, you know, I mean, she did drag the Bidens. she absolutely dragged the Bidens. And to hear the way that LSU as a team, as a record label, as a movement, the way that they threw some disrespect towards the First Lady's direction, I must say, I am a fan. Let's take a look at what Angel had to say when Jill Biden had attempted to meet the LSU Lady Tigers before the championship game. Let's take a look.
Even the whole White House thing, did you sit back with your team before you responded to it? Because a lot of people loved exactly how you showed up. You showed up unapologetically. Yeah. I know you love that word right now.
Me too.
And you showed up as yourself. You didn't go out there and put some political statement out there.
Yeah, no.
You said, we're not coming, period.
Yeah, period.
Right? How calculated was that? Did you have people sitting around and like, hey, you know, how should we respond?
No, that
to
was
this?
from the heart. That was from the mind. It was that. That was what it was in the moment. I mean, as soon as that happened, we hit the group chat like, what we doing? Y'all trying to go? Like what? Because if y'all don't, we not going. And my coach, she's telling us, just be patient. She got this, and that's why she came out with that statement this morning. We made a lot of phone calls, and that's why she wants to come out and apologize. But at the same time,
the damage is
I
done.
don't accept I'm not gonna lie to you. I don't accept the apology because of you said what you
Jill
said.
Biden.
Yeah.
First lady.
The wife.
Lady.
Yeah.
You said
First
what you
lady.
said, and you meant what
I
you
said what I said, and like you can't go back on certain things that you say. I mean, you felt like they should have came because of sportsmanship, right? They can have that spot. Like, we'll go to the Obamas. We'll see. I'm gonna see Michelle. I'm gonna see Barack.
Hold on. So did you guys speak to the First Lady?
No. Apparently, she was supposed to come to our locker room before the game, but we said no.
Before the game?
Yeah, they were all. She was supposed to come to our locker room and go to Iowa's locker room. I don't know if she talked to them. I don't know if she did, but we said we didn't want to. We didn't want her coming to the locker room. I think Joe Biden had put somebody else to win a national championship. He didn't put us on his bracket to get out of Baton Rouge. So I was like, bet.
Only a real baller would be truly offended that the president did not have their team going far enough in the tournament, and that would be a reason as not to go to the White House. I fucking love it. I love it. I love it. And some might say that Angel Reese and LSU are being petty by turning down an invitation to the White House. I disagree. How many teams did we see when Donald Trump was elected president refuse to come and meet the president? Even since Biden's been president, I think some athletes, some individual athletes as part of a couple of winning teams have elected not to come to the White House and meet the president. Because at the end of the day, that is a political statement. And I support Angel Reese and the LSU Lady Tigers for refusing to be part of that sort of spectacle when they feel as though the Bidens didn't even believe in him in the first place. And the fact that Jill Biden managed to piss off a bunch of women. It's just like, I thought you was girl boss, Dr. Jill. She pissed off a team full of amazing elite athletic women who are now champions because of her desire to be all inclusive. But again, the desire to be all inclusive likely would have only been a one-way street were the roles reversed between Iowa and LSU. Even if, let's say, Caitlin Clark had been the one to make the gesture during the final game, I doubt very seriously that the same considerations that Jill Scott, Lord, you know, a middle-aged Black woman, the same considerations that Jill Biden was trying to make and provide for the Iowa women likely would not have been made for the Louisiana state women. And I'm glad Angel Reese recognizes that. Now, unfortunately, the young woman Angel there is only 20, so she don't know that Obama's a sucker and that but for Barack Obama, we would not have President and First Lady Joe and Jill Biden, right? So Angel don't know that yet, but she's still a young babe. We're going to get her on her political education, and she will say eventually, fuck the Obamas as well. But I want to salute to Angel, to Jasmine, to Coach Kim, all of the Louisiana State Lady Tigers for taking a stand, for being underdogs and defeating an opponent that many did not expect them to, and to withstand the cultural and social media backlash, to withstand all of the abuse that was hurled in the direction of this 20-year-old girl, a girl. And I want to say shame on Keith Olbermann, shame on every single person who opened their mouth to call this young woman completely out of her name when she was just exercising and demonstrating superior ball skills, competitive spirit, and passion at the very highest levels. And America really needs to ask itself why it is so uncomfortable seeing a confident Black woman talk her shit, even if she wasn't talking, she was just doing this. You know what I'm saying? What about that makes certain white man's heads, and let's be clear, it wasn't maybe exclusively white men, but those are the ones that I saw getting the most attention. What is it about certain folks that makes conservative or would-be moderate white men absolutely lose their shit when they see a confident Black woman talking her shit? It's called misogynoir. We know what misogyny is. It's the hatred of women. Misogynoir is the specific hatred of Black women. And if you pay attention, particularly through the cultural lens, when Black women are being discussed, when their performances are being discussed, when their looks are being discussed, when their conduct is being discussed, when their behavior is being discussed, I want you, if you haven't already before, if you're not attuned to this, I want you to start listening out for it, because it's very clearly there. There is absolute blanket misogyny in this country, but there is a very specific sort of derision that is reserved for Black women, and Angel Reese was a recipient of that over the past few days. So I just, if you are not attuned to what that is, I want you to begin listening and looking out for it. It is not so much that, oh well, if you look for something, you're gonna find it. No, bitch, you don't have to look very fucking hard to find people in the public sphere who are willing to shit on undeserving Black women who have done nothing to engender that kind of abuse against them. So the gaffe machine apparently is working well in the White House with the president and the first lady. Oh, by the way, the White House has ameliorated that decision, errant decision announcement made by Joe Biden. The White House said that they would only invite LSU to the White House for their commemoration, but it sounds as though LSU is going to decline that invitation, and damn it, I am fucking here for it. Gang, that's the show. Thank you all so much for participating. Come on in, and if you have not already liked the video, do that on your way out. Please subscribe and become a member to Status Coup, and consider going over to my channel. It's called Burn It Down with Kim Brown. The title means exactly what the fuck it says. It's time to burn the shit down. Burn it down. I don't have another 50 or 100 or 200 fucking years for America to get its shit together. So it's imperative that we follow grassroots community organizers, people who already have a plan in place as to how we will replace and improve these systems and these structures when revolution, God willing, Allah, inshallah, when revolution eventually comes to this rotten settler colony. So I want to thank you all for watching me today on Status Coup. Big up to Jordan and Colin and Zaina in the background, and we will check you back here on Status Coup tomorrow. Peace.